Hey everyone, Kyle Walker here. If you love cars, fixing things, or just want to understand your vehicle better, you're in the right place. I share hands-on tips, smart driving advice, and straight-up car talk without the fluff. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stick around till the end. You don't want to miss what's coming up. Let's get
Every
into
driver is familiar with this term, but not everyone can give it an exact definition. Meanwhile, it is the most important node of almost any internal combustion engine. It is the cylinder head that protects all internal mechanisms from external influence, being a protective cover of the power unit. But this is far from the only purpose of this part. What is the cylinder head in the car? Since we have already told you how the abbreviation of the cylinder head is literally deciphered, it remains to mention that the head of the BC is the upper part of the block itself, and this follows from the name of the node. It performs many functions, the full list of which can vary widely depending on the type of the motor itself. Let's list the main tasks performed by the BC head. We have already mentioned the protective function. This function is assigned to the cylinder head cover, which covers the engine interior. It also usually contains the oil filler neck, through which the engine is filled with lubricant. To ensure that the cover is attached to the head itself tightly, a rubber gasket is used, which is able to withstand a large number of mounting/dismounting cycles. Another gasket is installed between the BC and the head, and its task is identical, to ensure perfect tightness. But it is made of soft materials like paranite, so it is highly deformable and disposable. And if it is supposed to dismantle the head, replacement of the gasket is carried out in any case. The cylinder head is the basic element for placing the parts of the timing mechanism. It also houses the components of the fuel system. The cylinder head is also responsible for the formation of optimal gas dynamic parameters of the exhaust for the removal of combustion products of the fuel. Assembly. The cylinder head ensures the tightness of the combustion chamber. It also houses the elements of the timing lubrication system trunk line. From all of the above, it follows that the cylinder head unit in a car is a geometrically quite complex element, providing for the presence of many cavities and holes. It is manufactured by casting, after which the entire part is subjected to a process called artificial aging. This procedure allows the residual stresses formed as a result of casting to be removed. If the CA is single row, all cylinders are arranged in a single line strictly in a row. It has one head. V-shaped motors are characterized by the presence of two heads, one for each row. Usually, the lower part of the BC head is slightly wider to provide a more airtight connection to the cylinder block. The design of the head with the valves at the bottom is simpler than with the valves at the top. In short, there are many design features of this part, and each model is characterized by its own set of advantages and disadvantages. Where the cylinder head is located. If you lift the hood of a modern car, you will see only the upper part of the head, its cover. Partially you can see its lower part, but in most cases a good view is hindered by the mass of attachments. The head is located directly above the cylinder block, which can occupy both longitudinal, in most cases, and transverse position in the engine compartment. The cylinder head is attached to the car by means of bolts and studs connecting the head with the block. Between them, a lot of cavities are formed, combustion chambers and trunk lines for circulation of technical fluids. Also, valves with spring mechanism are installed in the BC head, and plugs and injectors are installed outside. Specific composition of additional equipment and geometry of the head depend on the engine features, used fuel ignition system, number of cycles, gas distribution system. Closer to the radiator, there is a large-sized cavity for the camshaft drive and chain tensioning mechanism. Classification of the cylinder head. Since the BC head is an integral part of the SA, it is subjected to increased requirements for strength and ability to withstand extreme temperature loads. The main criterion for classifying the BC is the material of manufacture. For many decades, cast iron with various additives, chromium, nickel, has been the main material for the cylinder block. Cast iron tolerates heating well. It is quite rigid, which is a mandatory requirement for high-force engines. The only disadvantage of cast iron is its heavy weight, which negatively affects the acceleration characteristics of a passenger car. Aluminum is the second most frequently used material for BC manufacturing. It is light, durable, provides easier and faster cooling of power unit parts. But for aluminum, it is quite difficult to choose a material for manufacturing cylinders, which should have comparable characteristics, but have a higher resistance to high temperatures. For these purposes, aluminum silicon compositions and aluminum cylinders with nickel spraying are used. In the latter case, damage to the connecting rod or piston leads to the destruction of the nickel layer, which makes the cylinder unrepairable. BC, made of magnesium alloy, has the advantages of both traditional materials, lightness and strength, but it is so expensive that its mass production is unprofitable. Read also drum and disc brakes. Differences, advantages, and disadvantages. As for the cylinder head, it is subject to lower requirements. So aluminum has an undeniable advantage over cast iron. It is this material that is used for manufacturing the cylinder heads on most modern engines, allowing to significantly reduce the weight of the power unit. Another important classifier of the cylinder head is the shape and location of the combustion chamber. If the CC is located entirely in the head, such engines use flat pistons. Their peculiarity is the formation of the combustion chamber volume in the head when the piston passes the top dead center. The second variety are combustion chambers located both in the cylinder head and piston. Pistons of this variety are equipped with a notch in the lower part. There are also combustion chambers entirely located in the piston cavity. If we talk about the shape of the CW, it affects such parameters as the efficiency of fuel assembly formation, the process of its combustion, and the efficiency of combustion products removal. Most often the chamber has a complex shape, but there are also variants with round, hemispherical, wedge-like, and hip geometry. Structurally, the cylinder heads are divided into the following categories: one head for an inline motor or each row of a V-type CA. Group heads, which cover the cylinders in a separate row partially, as a rule, exactly half. Separate cylinder heads. Each cylinder has its own head. On most passenger cars with small/medium displacement engines, common cylinder heads are installed. High-horsepower multi-cylinder engines usually use individual heads, which reduces engine weight and simplifies maintenance/repair of pistons and other cylinder parts. Finally, heads are categorized by the availability and configuration of the timing gear. Obsolete designs of lower valve power heads may contain no timing parts at all, the same type of head provided in modern two-stroke engines. Heads containing part of the timing parts, usually valve train and valves. Heads, the design of which provides for a complete timing mechanism. This is the majority of modern power units. Regardless of the peculiarities of the design, the main thing in the cylinder head of the engine is the similarity of the principles of functioning. Construction of the head, the main parts of the cylinder head. Since the base area of the head, as well as the cylinder block itself, is quite large, it is necessary to minimize the possibility of deformation when fastening them, for which purpose a certain tightening scheme with a specific torque is used. And since the design of the head can vary greatly, there is no universal sequence of tightening. It is determined individually for each model of power unit. At present, cast iron cylinder heads are gradually giving way to cast iron heads, but a complete transition to this lighter material is still impossible because cast iron is less susceptible to heat shrinkage and other types of deformation characteristic of extreme temperature conditions. Inline engines are characterized by a single cylinder head housing covering all cylinders, while V-type SAs have two inline heads. An obligatory attribute of the head of the BC is a reinforced gasket, made of a material similar to asbestos, capable of resisting high gas pressure and high temperature effects, preventing leaks of lubricating fluid and fuel oil, and guaranteeing the tightness of the combustion chamber. Let's consider what the cylinder head consists of. Typical composition of an average head crankcase, a housing of complex geometric shape, which houses all the main parts of the cylinder, lubrication/cooling system ducts, and the combustion chamber itself, cavities for installing injectors, injector CA, or CZ in case of carburetor engines, the gasket installed between the cylinder head unit and the cylinder head, the combustion chamber, cavity where the fuel assembly is ignited, the timing mechanism together with its drive train, manifold mounting brackets, seats, valve guide sleeves. Read also, what to do if the car stalls when pressing on the gas valve seats are also pressed into the crankcase of the cylinder head. hot, providing the required tightness of the timing. Their replacement is possible, but requires the use of special equipment, which is practically impossible in garage conditions. Rules of operation of the cylinder head assembly. In general, the head of the BC is a fairly reliable unit, the resource of which can reach 500,000 kilometers. However, blockheads are not eternal. They can fail both due to natural wear and tear, and as a result of improper operation of the vehicle and its power unit. Extension of the service life of the cylinder heads is connected with fulfillment of rather simple and well-known recommendations. To carry out routine maintenance of the vehicle on time and in full, avoid excessive loads on the power unit and its individual components. Monitor the level of technical fluids, lubrication/cooling system, as overheating is the most common cause of head failures. It is important to know that an overheated cylinder head requires careful diagnosis of its condition because the earlier you find the defects, the cheaper the resuscitation measures will cost. However, many detected problems may require complete dismantling of the cylinder head, in particular, cylinder geometry irregularities, requiring boring, valve problems, deformation of the mating surfaces, gasket failure, microcracks on the crankcase surface. Maintenance and diagnostics. The driver's task is to systematically check the oil level, as well as the presence of leaks at the junction of the head with the cylinder block. By the way, not only oil, but also coolant can leak, and such leaks are more difficult to detect because they dry out quickly on a hot engine. Not noticed in time decrease in the level of technical fluids can cause overheating of the power unit, which will provoke a rapid deterioration of all the main parameters of the motor. In some cases, malfunctions of the cylinder head can be eliminated without dismantling it. Valve adjustment, replacement of oil caps that have served their useful life. But the removal of carbon deposits and other formations, lapping of valves or replacement of bushings will require more serious labor costs. To prevent premature failure of head parts and the crankcase itself, it is important to be able to identify problems in advance. The following symptoms are considered indirect signs of their possible occurrence. The appearance of wet and greasy spots around the head gasket. White foam on the dipstick when checking the lubricant level. If the exhaust gases become opaque, becoming whitish or gray in color. If oil stains are seen in the coolant in the expansion tank. Any of the above signs may indicate a loss of tightness of the cylinder head, which requires immediate elimination of the defect and a thorough diagnosis of the condition of all important components of the head. Of great importance is the correct installation of the gasket and compliance with the recommended sequence when tightening bolts/studs. Appearance of non-standard knocks in the area of the power unit should also alert. They may be the result of gasket breakdown. Compression level monitoring is also among the activities aimed at diagnosing the condition of the engine as a whole and its individual units. All work related to maintenance, diagnostics, and repair of the blockhead and its components should be carried out not by old memory, and strictly adhering to the requirements of the car manufacturer set out in the manual, because any error in installation can turn into big problems and the need for expensive repairs. In conclusion, understanding the cylinder head is essential for anyone interested in automotive mechanics or engine performance. It plays a crucial role in the overall functionality of an engine, influencing everything from airflow to combustion efficiency. By grasping the key components and their functions, you can better appreciate how your vehicle operates and even troubleshoot potential issues. Whether you're a seasoned mechanic or a curious enthusiast, having this knowledge will empower you to make informed decisions about maintenance and upgrades. Thank you for watching, and be sure to explore more about engine components to enhance your understanding further.